Coming up on Arirang News, the Japanese government newly approves school textbooks that water down its misdeeds of conscripting Koreans to work during wartime and intensify its false territorial claim over Dokdo. Seoul expresses strong regret amid the recent improvement in the two sides' relationship. North Korea unveils pictures of small nuclear warheads, with Kim Jong-un saying the regime should be fully prepared to use nuclear weapons anytime and anywhere. Amid escalating threats, a U.S. nuclear-powered warship arrives in South Korea's port city of Busan in a show of the robust Seoul-Washington alliance. South Korea plans to draft a budget of more than $515 billion for next year, which is to be focused on strengthening national defense against the North's threats, enhancing public safety, and creating more jobs for young people. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in South Korea. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We begin with the news on Japan's controversial textbook. Japan has approved changes to textbooks for elementary school kids starting next year, seen as a move to whitewash its wartime atrocities while strengthening false claims over South Korea's Dokdo. This has prompted the Korean government to file a strong complaint at a critical moment in terms of the Seoul-Dokdo relationship. Our foreign affairs correspondent Choi Min-jung starts our coverage tonight.
Japan has yet again approved the publication of textbooks that contain misleading historical claims. A textbook screening committee under Japan's Education Ministry on Tuesday approved 149 textbooks to be used in elementary schools from 2024. In some of the textbooks for 3rd to 6th grade elementary school students, Tokyo decided to dilute the extent of the coercion used in the conscription of Korean men during Japan's colonial rule. In a book for 6th graders, the current sentence, "Korean men were conscripted as soldiers of the Japanese army," will be changed to "Korean men participated in the Japanese army as soldiers, and conscription came after." Korean men were also described as young people who voluntarily joined the Japanese army. In another book, the term conscripted was removed altogether. The current elementary school textbooks do not contain content on the so-called comfort women, so not much is expected to have changed regarding forced labor. But in one of the textbooks from next year, the term brought in will be changed to mobilized when describing that a large number of Koreans and Chinese were forcibly brought into Japan. Japan has also further solidified its claim over South Korea's Dokdo Islets in the East Sea. More textbooks will describe Dokdo as being an inherent territory of Japan, or that Korea is illegally occupying the islets. Seoul's foreign ministry on Tuesday summoned an official from the Japanese embassy in Korea and strongly protested Tokyo's claim to Dokdo, saying the islets are clearly Korea's inherent territory historically, geographically, and under international law. It also expressed strong regret that forced labor is being described in a way that dilutes the nature of the coercion. The ministry urged Japan to behave more responsibly in educating future generations. As it says, having the correct historical awareness lays the foundation for establishing a future-oriented relationship. The changes in the textbooks come as the countries were off to a fresh start following South Korea's announcement of compensating Japan's wartime forced labor in the Seoul-Tokyo summit. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
In the meantime, North Korea's Kim Jong-un renews his hardline rhetoric, urging full preparation for use of nuclear weapons anytime, anywhere. Our Unification Ministry correspondent Kim Mo-kyun reports.
North Korea should be perfectly prepared to use its nuclear weapons anytime and anywhere. That's what North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said on Monday as he was briefed by the regime's Nuclear Weapons Institute on strategies to strengthen its nuclear program. The North state-run Korean Central News Agency says Kim called for efforts to further expand the production of weapons-grade nuclear materials in order to exponentially increase its nuclear arsenal. He says it's crucial for the regime's security as a solid nuclear power will protect its people from, quote, enemies. Such a security strategy was not only evident through Kim Jong-un's words, but also through action. In a separate report, the North State media revealed photos showing a firing drill simulating tactical nuclear attacks. On Monday, the regime reportedly detonated a mock nuclear warhead 500 meters above a targeted islet of Kimtaek near its Hamgyeongbuk-do province. This comes as South Korea's military has confirmed that the North fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles from Chunghwa area towards the East Sea during the morning hours of Monday. Meanwhile, the North also said it began another 3-day test of a nuclear-capable underwater weapon system on Saturday. It says the Hail-1 type underwater nuclear attack drone traveled along a 600-kilometer oval-shaped course in the East Sea for 41 hours and 27 minutes, and its test warhead was detonated underwater. But in contrary to the North's claim that the warhead accurately and successfully detonated under the sea, South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff says such claims seem to be exaggerated and manipulated, adding that the regime's underwater weapons capabilities are still seen to be in the developing phase. Kim Jongun, Arirang News.
President Solgar has stressed the need to reveal the reality of North Korea's human rights violations to the international community. Speaking in a cabinet meeting on Tuesday, Yoon said disclosing the reality of the regime's human rights situation is very important to national security. He added that South Korea should stop giving itself away to the regime and that not a single penny should be given to Pyongyang if it continues to develop nuclear weapons. The remarks came after the Unification Ministry announced that it'll release its North Korean human rights report to the public for the very first time this Friday. The government has been producing undisclosed reports on North Korea's human rights situation every year since 2016, but has decided to make them public to raise awareness. A U.S. strategic asset, the nuclear-powered warship USS Nimitz, has arrived in South Korea's port city of Busan. It's deemed as a show of the robust Seoul-Washington alliance amid growing threats from North Korea. Defense correspondent Kim Jongun was there at the site.
An American symbol of power docked at the port city of Busan.
It's here, one of the world's largest and most power-packed American warships, the USS Nimitz. The sheer length of this flight deck that I'm standing on right now is about 3 times the length of a soccer field.
The USS Nimitz is a warship specifically designed for air missions. It's capable of carrying up to around 70 aircraft, including a mix of fighter jets, such as the FA-18 Super Hornets and EA-18G Growlers, as well as helicopters such as the MH-60 Sierra for search and rescue operations. With an immense displacement of roughly 100,000 tons, the ship also carries around 5,000 personnel with it. This supercarrier arrived at the South Korean Fleet Command at Busan Tuesday morning, after wrapping up combined drills with the South Korean Navy in international waters south of the southern island of Jeju on Monday. Back in South Korea after 10 years, it's here in time for the 70th anniversary of the Korean armistice. Its visit also takes place while tensions continue to rise on the Korean peninsula as North Korea continues dialing up their weapons test and fiery tone.
One, it's an opportunity to reinforce the mission readiness between the ROK Navy and the United States Navy. Second is I think it's a great representation of the United States' ironclad commitment to the safety and security of the Republic of Korea.
We don't seek conflict with the DPRK. We seek peace and security. We're not going to be coerced. We're not going to be bullied, and we're not going anywhere.
This comes as North Korea fired off 2 short-range ballistic missiles into waters off the east coast of the Korean peninsula on Monday morning, in a clear protest of this U.S. war vessel being deployed to South Korea. The USS Nimitz and the U.S. Navy will conduct trilateral exercises with the South Korean Navy and Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force before they pull out of Busan. Kim Jongun, Arirang News, Busan.
South Korea has unveiled its budget guidelines for next year, worth some $520 billion. The major tasks are ensuring national security, creating more jobs, and strengthening welfare for minorities. Our finance correspondent Lee Dae-hyun has more. South Korea aims to focus on national security by strengthening defense and public safety in 2024. Creating more jobs for young people will also be on the list of tasks. Released guidelines for the 2024 budget by the government on Tuesday show that around 670 trillion won, or around $520 billion is expected to be drawn up.
내년도 예산안은 정부가 해야 할 일에는 과감하게 돈을 쓰면서도 국민의 혈세가 한 푼도 낭비되지 않도록 강력한 재정 혁신을 추구해서 건전 재정 기조를 견지해 나갈 것입니다. 내년에 정부는 건전 기조 하에서도 국방, 법치와 같은 국가 본질 기능을 제대로 수행하고 미래 성장 기반과 고용 창출 역량을 제고하며 약자 복지를 강화하는 데 충분한 재정 지출을 할 것입니다.
More of the budget will be injected into the defense sector to better cope with North Korea's nuclear and missile threats by strengthening military capabilities and advancing its weapon systems. It will continue to work on increasing military pay and improving the standard of their living quarters. For the public safety sector, the government will expand investigation systems for drug-related crimes. Adding to this, it will also strengthen its capability to prevent crimes such as stalking, voice phishing, and housing scams. To be better prepared for any accidents or disasters, it will establish a safety system using the latest technology, underpin food and drug management systems, and monitor accident black spots. The government will also focus on creating more jobs for young people. It will support small and mid-sized companies to expand their exports by utilizing trade finance. New sectors will be developed for more exports like nuclear power plants and the defense industry. Some projects will continue, such as the nurturing of startups and strengthening R&D investments for national strategic technologies. Other policies that the government came up with also include what it's calling customized welfare for minorities. It will seek more support for people in the blind spots of society while strengthening measures like a national basic living security policy. Monthly 1 million won, about $820, will be given to parents next year, and student loans and national scholarships will be expanded. The government also plans to resolve the low birth rate by supporting parents, while pledging more investment in responding to climate change, supporting regional development, and nurturing talent in high-tech industries. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
The South Korean president directly addressed the country's long-lasting demographic sticking point, the lowest birth rate in the world, which threatens the country's future productivity. Our Oh Soo-young reports.
Overcoming South Korea's demographic challenges requires social trust through long-term, not short-term policies, according to President Yoon Suk-yeol. The South Korean leader on Tuesday opened the first meeting under his administration of the Presidential Committee on Aging Society and Population Policy. It was the first time in 7 years that the nation's leader personally presided over the committee meeting. This underscored the severe demographic challenges that past government plans and an accumulated budget of $215 billion have failed to resolve over the past 15 years. Pointing out that the low birth rate problem is rooted in social issues such as public benefits, education, jobs, housing and taxation, as well as employment conditions for women. Yoon suggested that past efforts to promote child-rearing largely failed due to short-sighted measures and policy blind spots. He showed concern that many workers at small and medium-sized businesses and workers who don't have permanent contracts find it difficult to enjoy existing parental leave and childcare policies.
우리 사회가 보다 더 행복을 키워주는 문화, 또 열심히 하면 잘 살 수 있는 문화로 많이 바뀌어야 됩니다. 지나치게 과도하고 불필요한 경쟁에 휘말리는 그런 문화가 고쳐지지 않는 한 저출산 문제도 근본적인 답을 내놓기는 쉽지 않다고 봅니다.
According to Statistics Korea, South Korea's fertility rate fell to a record low of 0.78 child born per woman as of 2022. The figure also marks the lowest birth rate among 38 OECD countries. The country's percentage of people aged 65 and older is expected to hit 20.6 in 2025, transitioning into a super-aged society, which casts uncertainty over the country's productivity and workforce in the decades to come. The Population Committee plans to pursue 5 focus areas to help raise the flailing birth rate, which include expanding quality childcare services and policies to help working parents look after their children. It will also focus on housing and financial support, welfare and tax benefits, along with healthcare services. Calling for a full review of current policies aimed at promoting a higher birth rate, President Yoon says stronger measures and intensive investment are needed to build up trust in state support for childcare and to ensure that the joy of raising children and self-actualization can both be fulfilled. 오수영 Arirang News.
For 2 weeks, beginning this Thursday, lawmakers at the National Assembly will discuss ways to reform the electoral system. This comes with about a year to go until the general election. Our political correspondent Lee Si-hoo tells us more.
This Thursday, the National Assembly is set to hold a so-called meeting of the whole for the first time in almost 20 years. The meeting of the whole is held when there is a need for the parliament to freely discuss a certain bill before it's looked over at a plenary session. The ruling and opposition parties have agreed on 3 specific proposals to be debated at the meeting. The first proposal relates to distinguishing between urban and rural regions, which would mean 3 to 5 representatives are elected from densely populated districts, while a single representative would be elected from rural districts. At the same time, there would also be representatives elected using proportional representation, where the percentage of votes earned by party proportionally equals to party seats. The second proposal calls for electing 4 to 7 representatives in all electoral districts regardless of population density. Parties would submit a list of candidates and the voters would vote on the candidates as well as the party of their choice. The number of candidates elected here also depends on the percentage of votes cast for the chosen party. And the third proposal is to elect a single representative per electoral district in a winner-takes-all process. It also calls for proportional representation, but rather than voting for representatives from a countrywide pool, it suggests 6 separate regional pools where the representatives are elected proportionately. While the parliament has yet to decide how many times they will convene the meeting to discuss the reform, it's been said that they plan to pass on one single proposal to the Special Committee on Political Reform by the middle of next month. Once the proposal passes the Special Committee, it will be reviewed by the Parliament's Legislation Committee before being voted on at the plenary session, which it is hoped will take place in April. The legal due date for electoral reform is April 10th, a year before the general election. But whether the Assembly can meet this deadline is uncertain, as there are differences of opinion between parties and individuals. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
The 2030 World Expo is still 7 years away, but the host city will be decided this November. South Korea's coastal city of Busan is considered one of the top 2 candidates to hold the mega event, and the competition's heating up with each passing day. Our political correspondent Han Seungwoo had an exclusive sit-down with Prime Minister Han Duck-soo to hear more on just how important it is for the Korean government to bring the Expo home.
Transforming our world and navigating toward a better future. It's the official slogan South Korea has put out to let the world know its southern coastal city of Busan is ready to host World Expo 2030. And there's nobody more confident of that in the country than Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, who's also serving as co-chair of the nation's bidding committee.
부산은 바로 대한민국을 상징하는 모든 요소를 다 가지고 있습니다. 6.25 전쟁을 통해서 최고로 빈곤한 그러한 상황을 가진 그런 분들이 북한에서 말하자면 피난을 해오셨고, 그분들이 정말 어려운 삶을 살아가면서도 자기의 생활을 더 진전시키고 더 나은 생활을 이루어서 지금은 정말 세계 어디 내놓아도 부끄럽지 않은 그러한 세계 제2의 그런 그 환적 항구로서의 역할을 하고 있는 대한민국의 압축된 역사를 그대로 보여주면서 또 대외적으로의 교류를 활발히 해온 그러한 도시입니다.
World Expo 2030 is still years away, and the Bureau International des Expositions has yet to select the host city, which will be elected by member states in a General Assembly slated for November in Paris, on the principle of one country, one vote. But the competition's already heating up, with the BIE set to conduct an inspection on site in Busan early next month. That's why the Prime Minister, along with the chiefs of South Korea's most well-known corporations, have been seeking out meetings with foreign dignitaries and ambassadors to spread the word that there's just no place like Busan.
그분들이 대한민국 부산이 가장 박람회를 개최하는 적지다. 이런 그 확신을 가질 수 있도록 그분들을 그룹별로 만나기도 하고 실제로 방문하기도 하고 저만이 아니고 우리 기업들하고 또 부산시와 원팀이 돼가지고 그동안에 약 150개국 정도를 접촉을 하고 방문을 하고 했습니다.
If held in Busan, the mega event and its exhibitions will revolve around 3 sub-themes: sustainable living with nature, technology for humanity, and lastly, platform for caring and sharing.
2030은 단순히 어떤 현재의 그런 그 산업의 발전 상태를 보여주는 것이 아니고 전 세계와 더불어서 앞으로 우리가 지속 가능한 발전, 기후 변화에 대한 대응, 포용적 성장을 이루기 위해서 어떻게 해야 되는가, 어떻게 협력해야 되는가.
To bring attention to such global challenges on home soil, though, the country will have to get past a formidable competitor, equally as eager to announce itself on the world stage, Saudi Arabia's capital, Riyadh. Saudi Arabia's capital, Riyadh, is seen as Busan's biggest rival to host the Expo. In what ways is Busan the better candidate than Riyadh?
글쎄요, 뭐 여러 가지 이유가 있겠습니다만은 우선 부산은 훨씬 저는 아름다운 도시다 이런 생각이 들고요. 또 훨씬 개방된 도시다. 모든 일을 좀 더 자유롭게 할 수 있는 그런 민주주의, 인권, 개방 경제 이런 것들을 실천하고 있는 그런 그 도시죠.
Holding the 2030 World Expo in Busan would make South Korea one of a select few countries in the world to host the Olympics, the World Cup, and the World Expo, an honor that further motivates the government to ramp up its bidding efforts.
Don't miss the best opportunity, which will work as a permanent reminder on your mind that you really will have enjoy the best memories in your life.
한성우, Arirang News.
South Korean rookie girl group 50/50 have a record on Billboard's Hot 100 chart. Billboard announced via Twitter on Tuesday U.S. time that the song Cupid was in at number 100. The song was released just 4 months ago, meaning this is the fastest ever a K-pop song has entered the Hot 100 chart, overtaking the track Ditto by New Jeans. 50/50 are only the 5th K-pop girl group to enter the Hot 100 chart, along with Wonder Girls, Blackpink, Twice, and New Jeans.
The warming trend looks to continue on for tomorrow. Daytime conditions will be even milder tomorrow. For Seoul, daytime temperatures will be peaking at 19 degrees. This is about 6 degrees higher than the seasonal average. And for the remainder of the week, temperatures will keep rising for most regions. Keep in mind that this may cause big contrast in daily temperatures, so be careful not to catch a cold. And fine dust particles are set to blanket the nation tomorrow for central regions, including Seoul and Jeollabuk-do province. Air quality will be standing in the bad category. The surrounding regions may also see high concentrations of fine dust for the morning hours. For children or seniors, it is highly recommended to avoid outdoor activities for extended period of time. Under partly cloudy skies, Seoul will be starting off at 6 degrees. Highs in Seoul will get up to 19 degrees, Gwangju 22, Daegu and Gyeongju will be topping out at 21 degrees. And wide temperature gaps will continue on for the remainder of the week. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That brings to the end of tonight's newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with the most up-to-date news tomorrow. Have a good night.
I'm live! 저를 도와주시는 분들이
저희와 함께 해주시는 세션분들
아무리 봐도 이거 먹지 펜션 같은데 아니라고 아무도 안 하는 거고
좋아요.